If you've been watching through my workshop playlist, you may recall that I swapped out a Brand X Ascend dropper post for a replacement warranty unit. The reason for doing that was I was getting a knocking noise whilst pedalling sat down in the saddle. In this video, I'm going to be using the old unit to show you how to dismantle and reassemble it should you want to perform a service or a re-grease at home. Most dropper posts come with some rotational play, but if yours has gotten worse since you've had it, then you might want to strip it down to service it. It is also good practice to strip it down, clean it out and re-grease it every now and then to keep it running smoothly. As you can see on here, it is already removed from the bike itself. If you need to see how to remove your dropper post from the bike, check back on the video where I'm swapping it out, and that will show you how it is done. The link for that video can be found in the description down below this video. Let's get started on stripping the post down. We've got a bolt at this end that we're going to need to get undone. Now this one can be a little bit tricky. You're going to need a 10mm socket, but you'll find if you put that on there, it's probably just going to spin the shaft that's inside, and you're not going to get it undone. Now a way that I've found to get this undone is to actually undo the collar first, like so. Get that undone all the way. You see me unscrewing that here, and slide that away a little bit. Now I'm going to actuate the post and it will rise up a little bit more to full extent. So I'm just going to pull on the on this part down here with my thumb, and it should, there we go, that's come away a bit. Now chances are you're going to put your socket back on there and it's still not going to do anything. I'm going to give it a try. Yeah, that's not doing it. So now I'm going to grab that collar, bring it back down and just tighten it up a bit until you can feel a little bit of resistance on there. Now you're going to notice it's not going to go all the way down on the thread. There we go. So it's just got a bit tight here, and you can see there's still a threaded section here which it's not gone onto. I'm now going to try this socket. No, let's go a little bit more, a little bit tighter. There we go, and that's coming off. Okay, so you just need to wind that collar down a bit. There we go, here's the bolt, we are out. Okay, so now we've done that part, I'm going to take the collar off of that thready part once more, like so, and just leave that about midway on that upper section. Now another bit that we're going to need to remove here is the actuator at the bottom. Okay, best thing that I use for that, well, fits mine, is a 16mm spanner, open-ended spanner, because if you've got a ring spanner it will not fit on the end. You need to just be able to go around both sides of it like that. You can use an adjustable spanner should you want, anything that's just going to get a grip on there. Unscrew that, and then we should be able to pull out the whole air chamber assembly. Air chamber? Yeah, there we go. And now that that's pulled out, obviously we're left with both parts of the post here. This outer should now just pull away, revealing the inner section. Now I'm going to actually strip everything down off of this post, including the shaft keys as well. You'll have 3 brass shaft keys in there. Now they're what stop the post from spinning. If you didn't have them, your post, your saddle would just spin round and round and round. Now these can wear, allowing for more rotational play. These are pretty much brand new, but I'm just going to strip it down anyway. Now another good tip, if you are starting to take your post apart and you think you might forget how it goes back together, a good tip is to grab your mobile phone, just take some photos of the post itself in different areas so you know which way round everything goes back. nothing worse than having a load of parts out and you haven't got a clue which way around they go. Okay, so take your photos and away you go. Now, next thing I'm going to do here is we've got two little, what would you call these, bushings? I think you call these bushings, these white bits. Just going to use a small flat bladed screwdriver just to get in here and take these off. Okay, you don't need a lot of force. Get in there, get them off the shaft. Now the first one that you remove, you will see, if I give it a little wipe, the first one that you remove, you will see it has got a raised section here, which matches the keys that are in the shaft itself. So that's quite important. That actually goes at the back of the shaft when you're reassembling it. Right, that's that one off. Now I'm just going to give this a complete wipe down. There's not actually loads of grease in there. Yeah, I seem to have been a little bit stingy with the grease. So make sure you've got some suspension grease ready to go. To be able to get the collar off, you are going to need to remove these keys. So this is where we're going to go on to now. I have got a maintenance stand here. Don't know if I'm going to need it, but I've just set it up here just in case. It might be handy to have as an extra hand if you need two hands on tools or anything like that. Now to get these keys out, I'm doubting they're going to come out with a flat-headed screwdriver. In the shaft itself, there's no room at either end to get a screwdriver in to then pull it out. I can try and we'll see what happens, but I don't think that's going to work. No. So my next plan is I have actually got a pair of pliers and I've just put some electrical tape around the end so we can try and protect that brass. We don't want it to start burring up, because if you're going to reuse these keys, you're going to have to file a little burr off, and then you're going to find that it's going to have a bit more play probably when you put it back together. If you're going to be buying a new kit to service this, you can get a service kit for these posts. Again, the link to that will be down in the description down below. Okay, and it actually comes with these collars, it comes with the keys, and I think you also get a couple of seals or something with it as well. But let's try and get these keys out now. So, if I put that on there, I don't know if I need to be using my maintenance stand. There we go. So that one has actually pulled straight out. They're not the most expensive keys that I've seen in engineering. You'll find it's got a nice flattened top here. This is the bit which is actually exposed from the post itself, but this side it's kind of got rounded edges. Now generally, to get it like this, they've probably had a big coil of brass run through a press. The press comes down and punches these bits out the sheet. A bit like, if you can imagine I don't know, a hole punch when you're punching some holes in your paper ready to put them in that file. It's a bit like that, but obviously these are metal and long. So that might be why these posts sometimes have a little bit of play in them. But I don't know, let's get these all out. Big old squeeze. Give it a bit of a wiggle and a... This one's well tight. There we go, that one is out as well. So now once those keys are all out of the key seats, just slide this off. Remember, you should have hopefully taken a photo. Well, mind you, that one will come off anyway, actually, to be fair, without removing the keys, because it has got a split down here. But this is the only way you're actually going to be able to remove the collar. Okay, there we go. So that is off. I would say we have everything now stripped down. You can have a good old look down the outer part just to make sure it's all clean down there. Now you will see you've got grooves here. These are for the keys. So in here, these are the key seats where the keys sit. Down here we have the keyways that run up and down where the keys are in that tube, if that makes sense. So as I say, without the keys in there, you're just going to have a tube that's just going to twist. Okay. If you're needing to replace the actual air cartridge in one of these, you will need to take your actuator off of the end. Now to do that, you're going to need a 2mm Allen key. And if you look right in here, you've got 1, 2 grub screws. Okay, they need to be fully removed, and then you can actually remove the actuator off the end of the air chamber, air cartridge. Not quite sure why I keep calling it an air chamber. Anyway, here we go. I'm just going to remove these for you now. They're fairly long, but you need to make sure you're not going to lose them. You will 100% need that when it comes to obviously putting the actuator back onto your new air cartridge. So there we go, just taking them out of there completely. Like so. Let's come in. There we go. And then this part, the actuator should then just pull off the bottom. Now be careful, because inside of here you do have an actuator rod, okay, which pushes up into that air chamber. Don't lose that, as it's never ever going to work again. Some people do ask if you can actually adjust the air pressure inside of these units. Sadly you can't, they are a completely sealed unit. There's no Schrader valve to connect any kind of pump. Okay, right. So now we've cleaned down the whole of the post, it's time to reassemble it, either with your existing kit. I mean, if you're just doing a re-grease, you won't need to remove the keys or anything. If you're using a service kit on this, obviously you're going to need to put everything back, which is what we're going to do now. So I'm starting with the upper shaft, and we're going to put the collar back on first. What I might actually do with this collar is I'm going to put some grease just on the inside, and make sure you have some specific suspension grease. You don't want to put anything on there that's going to harm any of these seals. Treat these seals like that you would of your suspension forks. Okay, I'm just going to run this around the inside. I'll just put a blob on in there. Just going to run that around with my finger. There we go, and that is nicely on the inside. I'll put even just a tiny bit around those threads. There we go. So, keep my rag handy. I'm now going to pop this back onto the upper shaft. Now you might need to find, if you go and try and put it on straight, it might not go. So you might need to try and do it at a bit of an angle. Tease one side on, rotate it, and as you're doing that, you should then be able to push it all the way up and out of the way, ready for the next part. So the next part I'm going to put on is this collar. It's the biggest of the two collars. Now, where I had an issue with locking on mine, I'm actually going to put one blob of suspension grease in the seats for the keys, just to kind of bring them out a bit. I'm not going to overload it, but in my head I think that's going to make a difference. So I'm actually just going to go around, give it a squeeze. So a little blob just in the middle there. I'm going to do that in all of the key seats. So all 3 of those. Now we've done that, I'm going to put the keys back in. Now do you remember I said that one side seems to be rounded? That's the part that you want to have down on the post. You want to have the sharper corners facing up. Okay, so I'm literally going to press that in with my thumbs at the moment, and then I'll give it an extra squeeze in a minute. Now, see, I've got a bit of grease coming out here. That's not a problem, because we're going to want to put more grease on here anyway. 1, 2, and 3. Now to get these seated properly, I'm actually going to use a bit of rag on here, and I'm going to use these pipe spanners that I've got just to hopefully squeeze them right down into the seats properly. So don't go excessive with it, but you do need to make sure that they're down, otherwise it's not going to fit when you put it all back together. You can see when they're going down, and you can compare it to one that you haven't pushed down yet, and that should hopefully give you a rough idea of how far down you need to go. I think we're looking all right, I'm not sure, so just to double check, I'm going to grab this and just try and see if we can get it to line up in here. So as I say, there's 3. You're going to make sure you need to get the there we go, just get it all lined up. So it's actually not going to go yet, so I'm going to give it a bit more of a squeeze. Do you know what, let's not use the rag, because I have got tape around my pipe spanners as well, just to try and protect things a little bit, and also it's going to allow me to see a bit more as to what is actually going on. There we go, that's actually better. I can do those 2 at like the same time. Yeah, because they're opposite each other. Right, let's try that. Will that now fit in? There we go. So that fits in, that is good. Last bit we need to put on there is this collar down at the bottom. It's got a recess in the shaft for that one to go onto. There we go. So that is all ready for some grease now. Oh, actually, do you remember I said that this collar, the one I've just put on, has got a little kind of I'd say a notch, but it's not a notch. It's got a raised section which is the same width as the keys. You're going to have 3 keys, okay? There's not one on this side, but out of the 3 keys, that needs to be in line with the middle key, okay? Okay, I'm going to put some grease on. We're going to need it all around these keys, all around these keys. Hey! You do have to have a suspension specific grease. If you've got a grease that is too thick, your post is not going to work properly. So make sure you've got the right stuff for the job. There we go, that is all over, and that's ready to be reinserted back into that lower section of post. Now as we're putting this in, the middle key, the raised section in this collar here, and the back of the seat post need to be in line with the measurements that you've got on the back of that and the insertion part of the post. So as soon as we line that up, might need to twist it either left or right just to make sure. There we go, that is going in, and it's all ready for me just to screw this collar on a little bit. I don't know if I need to go all the way with the collar yet, or whether it's just a small amount. I'm questioning that because of that 10mm bolts. I don't know if it's going to do up or what, so I'm going to go about halfway. That's pretty much where we were before. One thing I'm going to mention, I didn't mention it earlier, at the bottom of these threads there is actually a rubber seal there, so make sure if you've got one of these knocking around, that's where it comes from. There's actually a seat for that to go into. Okay, right, now let's get the air cartridge back in. First off, we're going to need to put the actuator back on the bottom of this air cartridge. Just literally push as far as it can do, and then it's time to get the grub screws back in to hold that in place. So screw them in a couple of turns to start with, and then you're going to find it's much easier to use that 2mm Allen key to get them in all the way. Okay, here we go. As far as it'll go, you don't need to be doing it up excessively tight. If you've got your Allen key like this and you do it up like that, tightness wise, that's going to be plenty. If you put it that way and really crank round on it, might be a bit too tight. You might also break your Allen key. No one wants that. Okay, we're now ready to insert this one back through. You don't need any grease on this unit, on this part. It's internally greased down here. You could put a tiny bit on the shaft here if you wanted to. Do you know what? I'm going to put a tiny little blob on there. Hardly any really. So when the dropper is in its lowest position, yeah, that just gets spread down the shaft anyway. But here we go. Right, we've got a thread at the top, pushing that through. I'm going to screw this one in first. Okay, I'm going to make a mental note that I've not actually knit that one up. It's not too tight at the moment. It doesn't need to be excessive again, but the one I'm concerned about is actually this 10mm bolt, because it appears to be a bit of a troublemaker. Okay, I'll put that in there. Can we do it up? That is the question. Right. This does up first time, that'd be amazing. No, doesn't want to. Right, let's undo that. Make sure we're at full extend, which I believe we are. I'm just going to do a reverse now of what I did when I first started this. Yeah, 100% at full extend. So now I'm going to wind this down until we feel that bit of resistance. Is there, and now we're trying to do that up. Nope, let's go a little bit more. Yes, that is it, and that has gone tight. So that's the way to do it, folks. So now I can do that up a bit more, but I actually can't because it's at full extend, so it's gone beyond what it would normally do, because that would kind of stop it a little bit. So I'm just going to pull down on the actuator just to, there we go, shorten that post a bit. That will then allow us to tighten the collar up. Now the collar doesn't need to be excessive, just tight enough. As tight as you can get it with your hands, that is fine. Give that a little wipe. Only thing we need to worry about now is this end, the actuator itself. So I am going to grab my 16mm spanner once more. That's tight enough, that's where we need to be. Make sure that's working. Okay, give it a couple of goes like that. Yep, and then you're ready to put it back on your bike. Now I've got my seat post all back together, I actually don't think I can feel any knocking noises there. I can't feel it knocking whatsoever. There's no play at all. So whether it was just lack of grease, maybe I should give it a try. If this video has given you the confidence at home to go ahead and service your own dropper post, why not give us a like down below? Whilst you're there, you might as well subscribe. And also, if you've got any comments relating to this or any problems that you're having with your seat post at home, pop them in the comments section down below. So until next time,